Chapter 9. A scholar has been beaten to death at the mouth of the Hong River by some unknown person, and his body is now lying at the bottom of the water. The Dragon King had the corpse brought in and laid before him. He took a careful look at it and said, "But this man was my benefactor. How could he have been murdered? As the common saying goes, kindness should be paid by kindness. I must save his life today so that I may repay the kindness of yesterday." He at once issued an official dispatch, sending a yak to deliver it to the municipal deity and local spirit of Hongzhou, and asked for the soul of the scholar so that his life might be saved. The municipal deity and the local spirit in turn ordered the little demons to hand over the soul of Chen Guangrui to the yak, who led the soul back to the Water Crystal Palace for an audience with the Dragon King. "Scholar," asked the Dragon King, "what is your name? Where did you come from? Why did you come here, and for what reason were you beaten to death?" Guangrui saluted him and said, "This lowly student is named Chena, and my courtesy name is Guangrui. I am from the Hongnong district of Haizhou. As the unworthy Zhuangyun of the recent session of examination, I was appointed by the court to be governor of Jiangzhou, and I was going to my post with my wife. When I took a boat at the river, I did not expect the boatman, Liu Hong, to covet my wife and plot against me. He beat me to death and tossed out my body. I begged the great king to save me." Hearing these words, the Dragon King said, "So, that's it. Good sir, the golden carp that you released earlier was myself. You are my benefactor. You may be in dire difficulty at the moment, but is there any reason why I should not come to your assistance?" He therefore laid the body of Guangrui to one side, and put a preservative pearl in his mouth so that his body would not deteriorate but be reunited with his soul to avenge himself in the future. He also said, "Your true soul may remain temporarily in my water bureau as an officer." Guangrui kowtowed to thank him, and the Dragon King prepared a banquet to entertain him, but we shall say no more about that. We now tell you that Lady Yin hated the bandit Liu so bitterly that she wished she could devour his flesh and sleep on his skin. But because she was with child and did not know whether it would be a boy or a girl, she had no alternative but to yield reluctantly to her captor. In a little while they arrived at Jiangzhou. The clerks and the lictors all came to meet them, and all the subordinate officials gave a banquet for them at the governor's mansion. Liu Hong said, "Having come here, a student like me is utterly dependent on the support and assistance of you gentlemen." "Your honor," replied the officials, "is first in the examinations and a major talent. You will, of course, regard your people as your children. Your public declarations will be as simple as your settlement of litigation is fair. We subordinates are all dependent on your leadership, so why should you be unduly modest?" When the official banquet ended, the people all left. Time passed by swiftly. One day, Liu Hong went far away on official business, while Lady Ying at the mansion was thinking of her mother-in-law and her husband and sighing in the garden pavilion. Suddenly she was seized by tremendous fatigue and sharp pains in her belly. Falling unconscious to the ground, she gave birth to a son. Presently she heard someone whispering in her ear, "Mantanjiao, listen carefully to what I have to say. I am the star spirit of South Pole, who sends you this son by the express command of the Bodhisattva Guanyin. One day his name will be known far and wide, for he is not to be compared with an ordinary mortal. But when the bandit Liu returns, he will surely try to harm the child, and you must take care to protect him. Your husband has been rescued by the Dragon King. In the future, both of you will meet again, even as son and mother will be reunited. A day will come when wrongs will be redressed and crimes punished. Remember my words. Wake up. Wake up." The voice ceased and departed. The lady woke up and remembered every word. She clasped her son tightly to her but could devise no plan to protect him. Liu Hong then returned and wanted to have the child killed by drowning the moment he saw him. The lady said, "Today it's late already. Allow him to live till tomorrow and then have him thrown into the river." It was fortunate that Liu Hong was called away by urgent business the next morning. The lady thought to herself, "If this child is here when that bandit returns, his life is finished. I might as well abandon him now to the river and let life or death take its own course. Perhaps heaven, taking pity on him, will send someone to his rescue and to have him cared for. Then we may have a chance to meet again." She was afraid, however, that future recognition would be difficult. So she bit her finger and wrote a letter with her blood, stating in detail the names of the parents, the family history, and the reason for the child's abandonment. She also bit off a little toe from the child's left foot to establish a mark of his identity. Taking one of her own inner garments, she wrapped the child and took him out of the mansion when no one was watching. Fortunately, the mansion was not far from the river. Reaching the bank, the lady burst into tears and wailed long and loud. She was about to toss the child into the river when she caught sight of a plank floating by the river bank. At once she prayed to heaven, after which she placed the child on the plank and tied him securely to it with some rope. She fastened the letter written in blood to his chest, pushed the plank out into the water, and let it drift away. With tears in her eyes, the lady went back to the mansion, but we shall say no more of that. Now we shall tell you about the boy on the plank, which floated with the current until it came to a standstill just beneath the temple of Gold Mountain. The abbot of this temple was called Monk Faming. In the cultivation of perfection and comprehension of truth, he had attained already the wondrous secret of birthlessness. He was sitting in meditation when all at once he heard an infant crying. Moved by this, he went quickly down to the river to have a look, and discovered the baby lying there on a plank at the edge of the water. The abbot quickly lifted him out of the water. When he read the letter in blood fastened to his chest, he learned of the child's origin. He then gave him the baby name River Float and arranged for someone to nurse and care for him, while he himself kept the letter written in blood safely hidden. Time passed by like an arrow, and the seasons like a weaver's shuttle. River Float soon reached his 18th year. The abbot had his hair shaved and asked him to join in the practice of austerities, giving him the religious name Shenzang. Having had his head touched and having received the commandments, Shenzang pursued the way with great determination. One day in late spring, the various monks gathered in the shade of pine trees were discussing the canons of Chan and debating the fine points of the mysteries. One feckless monk, who happened to have been completely outwitted by Shenzang's questions, shouted angrily, "You damnable beast! You don't even know your own name, and you are ignorant of your own parents. Why are you still hanging around here playing tricks on people?" When Shenzang heard such language of rebuke, he went into the temple and knelt before the master, saying with tears flowing from his eyes, "Though a human being born into this world receives his natural endowments from the forces of yin and yang and from the 5 phases, he is always nurtured by his parents. How can there be a person in this world who has no father or mother?" Repeatedly and piteously he begged for the names of his parents. The abbot said, "If you truly wish to seek your parents, you may follow me to my cell." Shenzang duly followed him to his cell, where, from the top of a heavy crossbeam, the abbot took down a small box. Opening the box, he took out a letter written in blood and an inner garment, and gave them to Shenzang. Only after he had unfolded the letter and read it did Shenzang learn the names of his parents and understand in detail the wrongs that had been done them. When Shenzang finished reading, he fell weeping to the floor, saying, "How can anyone be worthy to bear the name of man if he cannot avenge the wrongs done to his parents? For 18 years I have been ignorant of my true parents, and only this day have I learned that I have a mother. And yet, would I have even reached this day if my master had not saved me and cared for me? Permit your disciple to go seek my mother. Thereafter, I will rebuild this temple with an incense bowl on my head, and repay the profound kindness of my teacher. If you desire to seek your mother," said the master, "you may take this letter in blood and the inner garment with you. Go as a mendicant monk to the private quarters at the governor's mansion of Jiangzhou. You will then be able to meet your mother." Shenzhen followed the words of his master and went to Jiangzhou as a mendicant monk. It happened that Liu Hong was out on business, for heaven had planned that mother and child should meet. Shenzhen went straight to the door of the private quarters of the governor's mansion to beg for alms. Lady Yin, you see, had had a dream the night before in which she saw a waning moon become full again. She thought to herself, "I have no news from my mother-in-law. My husband was murdered by this bandit. My son was thrown into the river. If by chance someone rescued him and had him cared for, he must be 18 by now. Perhaps heaven wished us to be reunited today. Who can tell?" As she was pondering the matter in her heart, she suddenly heard someone reciting the scriptures outside. "In ceasing to show proper respect to heaven and your ancestors, you'll only bring humiliation on them when the dynasty falls and you die in the near future. You've murdered your wife on the false accusations by your concubine. You've attempted to put your own sons to death. And you've put the loyal to death on the burning pillar. It's obvious that disaster will soon befall this dynasty, and that it will soon be replaced by a successor. Since you're the master criminal behind all this treachery, will you have the conscience to confront your ancestors upon your demise?" King Zhou banged on his desk with his fist and roared, "Grab that old wretch and beat him to death at once. I'm not afraid to die. I'm only sorry that I've failed to transform this tyrant into a good ruler. You scourge. You won't last long on that throne of yours, that's for sure. The kingdom will be done for in a matter of years." Shan Rong shouted back, and turning around, he threw himself at a stone pillar. His skull was crushed, and his brains and blood began to drip down over the collar of his robe. The ministers exchanged horrified glances at Shan Rong's tragic death, but King Zhou was still very angry. He ordered that the corpse be tossed into an empty field beyond the capital. If you want to know what happened after that, please read the next chapter.